James, I wondered what is the most effective way to realize non-duality? I personally very much like the mantra that all objects appear in me, appear in my mind, so there's no way to say the objects are out there because they're all perceived in me. And for example, in deep sleep, there are no objects in that form to be perceived.
Yeah, that that's an extremely powerful mantra. In fact, that all Krishna says in the Gita, he says, all objects or all things are in me, and then the second part of the mantra is, I am not in them.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I'm not caught up in the objects themselves. I'm always free of the objects. I'm the non-experiencing witness or the observer of all the objects. And that the objects are not outside, but they appear in my consciousness. And they arise and fall in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get into those objects. I'm always free of those objects. So that's an extremely powerful mantra. And that mantra, you don't just say it mindlessly. You hear the teaching about subject and object and the relationship, and then you continually contemplate. You continually keep that idea in your mind all day long if you can. And as you say, it produces amazing benefits. You remain with a non-dual vision as long as you keep contemplating on that mantra. But and it's an important mantra, but all the mantras in Vedanta are basically equal.
Mm-hmm.
They all, if you contemplate on them, they will all produce the non-dual vision of non-duality.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the joy is not in the object. The joy is in the subject,
Mm-hmm.
in me. The joy, the bliss or the happiness I seek isn't in objects, it's in me. Now, if you really contemplate on that object, it will stop your seeking for objects. And so it will turn your mind directly around, and the mind will start to what? Enjoy the bliss of the self, which is the source of the object. So that mantra is extremely, that's like a basic, powerful mantra. It will have a huge impact on your state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
The results of the action are not up to me. That's a mantra. What's that going to do? That's going to make you relaxed. And then that's karma yoga basically.
Mm.
The results of the action are not up to me. And so as you're acting, you've got to if you understand that, then you release all of the anxiety associated with the results to Ishvara. Your mind becomes still and quiet, and then you can what? Then you should have that attitude toward the mantra too. You shouldn't be thinking when you're saying your mantra or concentrating on your mantra and contemplating on your mantra. Well, when's the vision of non-duality going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're waiting for some kind of big experience. You just, as you understand that more and more and more, you see the truth of it, and you imbibe in the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the most famous Vedanta mantra is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Now that means what? The self, consciousness, me, is real, and the objects that present themselves to me are apparently real. Now all those have the same impact, don't they? Because if you know an object isn't actually real, you won't be inclined to pursue it.
Mm.
And if you know that the joy is not in the objects, you're not going to be inclined to pursue it. So both of those, but you have to understand what that means. That something that appears to your senses and appears to your mind can't be real, because real being what's permanent and lasting and everlasting and unchanging. That's what real means. And objects that appear and disappear can't be real. So a Vedanta contemplator or meditator needs to constantly keep that idea in mind all the time, to neutralize those vasanas that are extroverting the mind and causing the jiva to act on the basis of those desires.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the mantras, the analysis of the waking and deep sleep and dream and deep sleep state, when you understand that and reduce that to a simple formula, then if you keep concentrating on that all the time, you will see that in fact you aren't changing and going through these different states. You're the witness of those states.
Mm.
Or I am beyond the gunas. Now if you know what gunas are, right, if you understand what the gunas are, if you've been taught properly what gunas are, then you can identify those gunas and you can, right, it's the same basic idea as, all objects are in me, I'm not in them.
Yeah.
Because the self is triguna tita, it's beyond the gunas.
Mm.
So by keeping this idea that the gunas are not me, right, you objectify them. And at the same time you objectify something, you become aware of the subject. Because you can't have an object without the subject.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of all these mantras is to turn your attention back to the self until your mind is established in non-duality.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? That means that you have a permanent satya mithya vasana.
Yeah.
You know the difference between the objects and the subject.
Mm. Yeah.
So all the teachings do the same thing, and if this one works for you, you just keep doing it. You don't. People think, well, I have to learn all the teachings of Vedanta. I have to study Vedanta and learn all the teachings, and then I'll be enlightened. No, you don't. Not at all. In fact, if you just have one mantra or one teaching and you contemplate it consistently, you can gain moksha through that.
No. But it doesn't hurt to use the other mantras too.
No, it's fine. In fact, you'll be more effective as a communicator if you understand the meaning of all the mantras, because many people are not suited to understanding a particular mantra.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you say, for example, another mantra would be, the self is not a doer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the implied meaning of that? Well, the implied meaning of that is that the doer isn't you, isn't it? So when you think about the implied meaning of that statement, I am not a doer, it means that that part of you that's doing something, which you previously thought was you, is not actually you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you stop identifying with
so you that's right. That contemplation on that will break your identification with the doer. So everyone is equal to every other mantra.
Yeah.
Good.
Good. Thank you, Ramji.
You're welcome indeed.